Hi, I'm John Oliver, Video Content Specialist, and today we're going to be looking at our analysis of customer acquisition at American Express. We have data on a subset of current and former customers, and we are trying to find out what factors are related to whether a customer chooses to leave American Express. Looking at our team, we have Jack Hughes, Presentation Design Specialist, Charles McNeilis, Data Analyst, Blake Rallier, Report Design Specialist, Abdullah Abawali, Data Visualist, and myself, John Oliver, Video Specialist. Like I said in our first slide, our objective is to find which factors or variables are related to whether somebody chooses to leave American Express. Ultimately, we want to find what makes an individual highly likely to stay with the company and what we should focus on in order to have higher customer return rate to make more profits instead of losing possible customers. To identify customer attrition, we use the binary choice modeling technique. Looking at our data overview section, we see all the important variables that were used to run multiple regression tests to determine which model is the best at predicting attrition rates. Our important variables included the client's age, if they are married or not, sex, education level, months on book, how many months inactive they are, number of dependents, and average utilization ratio. We found out through our visualizations that customers who have higher inactivity and lower engagement levels noticeably end up having higher attrition rates. We also saw that demographic variables such as age, sex, and marital status add less value to our predictions. For our first visualization, we have a bar graph showing attrition rate by card category. The card categories that we have are silver, blue, gold, and platinum. As we move from lower end models such as silver to a higher end model such as platinum, we see that the attrition rate gradually increases. This suggests that income level is a meaningful predictor in churn behavior. Next visualization, we have another bar graph showing attrition and customer count by income category. The top graph shows the attrition rate, and the bottom graph shows the income category and the number of clients. You can see the number of clients by just hovering over the bar graph. This ultimately shows the majority of the customer base is in the lower and middle class brackets. This means that high attrition rates in this category can have a large impact on total churn rate. By focusing our attention efforts into these lower and middle class areas, we can produce the greatest return on investment. The next visual is a scatter plot showing the relationship between utilization ratio and transaction amount. On the y-axis, you have average utilization ratio, and on the x-axis, you have total transit amount. Each red dot represents an attrited customer, while each blue dot represents an existing customer. As you can see from the visual, the existing customer or blue dot have a higher utilization ratio and are spread out throughout the whole graph. The attrited customers on the or red dots hover over the left side lower on the lower end of the plot and have a lower utilization ratio. This overall suggests struggling customers are reducing activity before leaving entirely. The last visual that I'll be going over is a heat map of attrition rate by income level and card category. For the rows, you have card category, which consists of silver, blue, gold, and platinum. And for the columns, you have income level. Each square represents an attrition level. The darker the square, the lower the attrition rate. The lighter the square, the higher. What we learned from this graph is that attrition rate varies based on the income level and card tier. Blue and silver are consistent throughout income level, while platinum has white and is the highest and also lowest attrition rate based on how much income you have. This shows a potential mismatch between product type and customer affordability. Final estimated regression equation uses months inactive, dependent count, average utilization ratio, credit limit, total relationships, total contacts, total transaction count, and a female variable to most accurately predict attrition. We got this equation by finding the highest R squared and lowest standard error out of the 5 regression models. Looking at the R squared and standard error for each of the 5 regression models, we see that for the first 4 regressions, they each have a low R squared of 6% and a standard error of 35 percentage points each. Only in the final regression we see a difference in R squared and standard error. We added more quantitative variables to the final regression, which was very beneficial, raising the R squared to 30% and standard error dropped to 30 percentage points, making it the most reliable out of the 5. Some of the key takeaways from our tests was that attrition rates had little to do with the demographic factors and more to do with behavior and usage, which turned out to be significant drivers of attrition. The insignificance of demographic type variables only strengthens the key insight that the risk of attrition is mainly driven by how clients interact with their own accounts. The strongest variables with the most predictive power include months inactive, transaction activity, utilization ratio, customer contacts, total relationships, and credit limit. One of the recommendations we have is to focus retention efforts on behavior and usage rather than demographically, which will provide us with more accurate predictions. Another recommendation is for customers who demonstrate rising inactivity, reduced transaction activity, reduced card use, and increased contact attempts should be targeted for proactive retention, as they show the highest chance of attrition. In the future, research should consider the use of time series behavior indicators, which can consist of month to month spending and card use. Also, looking at more indicators of behavior such as customer service interactions, reward redemptions, or application use. To conclude our analysis, we found out that demographic factors did not have a great impact on attrition as we initially expected. It's evident that inactivity, decay in transaction activity, behavior, customer contacts, and credit limits are the best indicators of attrition. Lastly, it's important for American Express to track real time engagement to better predict in the future why a customer is more likely to leave. If you have any questions or concerns, please contact our team member, Jack Hughes, at jackhughes@arizona.edu.